Hey, listen up. Everyone Loves Guitar listeners can now get 20% off all merchandise at guitarmerch.com. Just enter the discount code VIDEO in your shopping cart and enjoy. Get your Everyone Loves Guitar t-shirts, hoodies, and mugs, as well as other cool music and guitar t-shirts. Just enter VIDEO as your discount code for 20% off at guitarmerch.com. Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garver. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. I've got a really talented guest with me today with Josh Hoyer out of Lincoln, Nebraska. And, I want to thank Wendy Brinford Jones for connecting us. And when she presented me with Josh's music, I had not really heard of him. And I listened to it. And I said, oh, my God, this guy's got a voice. If there's a heaven and if you're going there, this guy is going to be singing in it. Let me just tell you that. He's just got a beautiful voice, great songwriter, super talented guy, and he's got a great story. So let's get into it. Cliff Notes background. Originally from Lincoln, Nebraska, Josh is the founder of Josh Hoyer and Soul Colossal. These guys are so tight musically. It's so great to listen to them. Very powerful soul, blues, and funk band. Again, I can't say enough good things about Josh's voice. He was born to be a soul singer. That's all I can say. He also writes all the songs, plays a mean B3, which adds such a great dimension to any band, and baritone saxophone. Since 2003, Josh has released 9 studio records. I think he's coming up on number 10. He competed on The Voice in 2017, and he's been touring nationally and internationally since 2014, averaging over 200 shows a year, both with Soul Colossal and on his own as a solo artist. He also has a new record coming out October 21st. It's called Green Light, and you can get that on joshhoyer.com. It's Josh, Hoyer, but we'll talk more about that later. Hey, man, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on the show.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Craig.
Oh, my pleasure. So I read an article about you in the Daily Nebraskan. Yeah. I don't read the Daily Nebraskan. It's just part of my research.
Yeah, not many people do.
This is what it said. It said, a college dropout, Hoyer was traveling the country and living out of his van without any idea what he wanted to do with his life. And I was immediately attracted to you.
Yeah, right.
So we have whatever the same dysfunctions are. That's what that means. Yeah. But it says, I'm saying, I'm sure this was something that evolved over time. But to the extent you can you explain how you found yourself, in a situation living out of the van, and equally important, how you wound up getting yourself out of it?
Yeah, you bet. I went to college. I started college at 17, so pretty young. And then, I went through my first year and a half of college and just wasn't really sure what I wanted to do and why I was spending the money, or my family was spending the money for me to be in school. I felt like I needed to explore more, to see the country. And so that's what I did. I said, I'm going to leave here. And I headed out to the West Coast and had a sweet little Toyota van and 1988, my Yoda with my dog. And, we just kind of went on a journey, man, and met people and played music in various places and just experienced life. And it was good for me to do that at that time. I think a lot of people in their young age maybe kind of rush through things and don't take their time to see what they really want to do. It's kind of what our society does, is pushes you to, okay, now go into more debt and go into more debt and go into more debt and get your job and, thank you for
pay off your debt.
Yeah,
man, I give you a lot of credit. You did that alone, that trip.
Yeah. I'm always kind of a solitary guy. I've just been that way. I was, I'm an only child, and I like my time alone. I think it's all right to be alone, and I love people too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. No, but that took a lot of courage to do that at that young age. I really admire that. I mean, a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that. Or I just had a little wild streak too, and just kind of wanted to be free, and so I got to experience that.
What was
lucky?
Yeah, I mean, looking back now, at being an older adult, it's like, yeah, I can imagine how valuable that was. Yeah. What was the number one thing, or what were the most important things, rather, you got out of that experience?
I found myself, to make ends meet, I did a lot of different jobs, and just kind of, I worked as a landscape maintenance guy, and I worked on an assembly line, and I worked in a timber mill, and I worked as a cab driver, worked in kitchens, like just kind of picking up odd jobs and this kind of stuff. And everything always drew me back to music, and I think during that time was kind of, because I wasn't even necessarily playing that much. I was just starting to get into a place where I was revisiting music. I'd been playing and singing since I was very young, and then I went to college and it kind of fell off. And so during this time, I was kind of rediscovering myself as a musician and just drawn to it over and over again. So I guess during that time, that's really what was kind of being cultivated inside my spirit. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you end? Like, what was the trigger when you said, "Okay, let me end my trip now"? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I lived in Eugene, Oregon for a year, and just stayed there for a while, and had a kind of like a hippie crash pad. A bunch of people would come in and out, and I finally got tired of all that coming in and out, and then I hightailed it to New Orleans for a while, and lived out of my van until I found an apartment after a couple months, and there was, to be honest, there was a brawl inside of my apartment, and my bed got broken, and my saxophone was crushed. And I said, you know what? I'm out of here. Because these were people that kind of followed me from Nebraska. And I'm like, I'm out of here. I want to go home. So that's what took me home. And when I got home, I went back to college and got a degree in journalism and started playing in bands, forming my own bands. So that's when I just got to business at that point.
So in a sense, this trip really set you free of you got it out of your system. As you said, you're a bit of a wild hare, but it led you on the path to like, okay, now I'm going to get focused and, do what I want, which is music.
Yeah. Yeah. And it had been there all along. That music piece, I would spend a lot of time in both those places, in Oregon and in New Orleans. I had it's a machine that I still record on. It's a 8-track digital recorder. And then a keyboard that I had that was just this very beginning Roland keyboard. And I was always kind of fleshing out ideas and writing and creating. So that was something that I, had taken with me. And so that just continued to grow. And when I got home, that's like, well, I'm going to make a band now. Let's use this.
That's so cool, man. How long was the whole trip? Like, how long were you gone from start to end?
A couple years. A couple years of just kind of bouncing around the country.
So would you be cool if one of your kids came to you at some point and said, "Hey, Dad, I want to do something like that"?
Yeah. I mean, as long as there's communication there, I think the world is a little different. And,
hell yeah. Oh my God.
I have daughters, and they're very strong, but
Oh, but it's a daughter, dude. Believe me, I have both. Yeah, yeah. You have a different, you need, you set, what is that? Find My Phone or whatever the hell it is. So you know exactly. Yeah, exactly. I know, man. Yeah. Absolutely, dude. You got it. And the world, unfortunately, is a different place. You got to be a lot more concerned. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how much has changed in the last 30 years.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you started on saxophone and then you moved to keyboards. And that is, having played saxophone, I can tell you that's not a logical, it's not like going from guitar to bass, It's not an easy jump. And yet you're an awesome keyboard player. So I had a few questions for you. Oh, you're welcome. How did you jump? Like, what prompted that jump, I guess, basically?
Well, it's hard to write songs on a saxophone. So that's where it all started. And I got that digital recorder, years and years. That was 1999, I believe, is when I got that. And, I got a keyboard shortly before that. I had a lot of ideas in my head that I was trying to get out. And so, hammering out on the keyboard was the way to do it. It just opens you up to orchestrating songs, So,
and are you self-taught on the keyboard?
Yeah, completely. And I taught myself wrong. And any experienced keyboard player or well-learned keyboard player will go, dude, what are you doing? You know, like I have a very strange approach to it, but it's cool.
It's great.
I am what I am, as they say. So
that's right, man. Do you, was your intention always to get to play a B3, or, cause I mean, that's a magic instrument, man.
Right. No, I wouldn't say that. You know, there was a couple studios that when we first recorded our records, you know, where I had a chance to like actually touch one and feel the power of that, that instrument. And there's like a transcendental glory to it too. It's just it's such a beautiful and powerful instrument. So I love playing them, but no, I wasn't like, you know, a goal, but when I had a chance to actually try one, I was like, man, yeah, I need to do this more often. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you had several bands before Soul Colossal. How did you first start Soul Colossal, and what were some of the challenges that you had early on as far as getting things moving?
The first band I formed was pretty much right after I got back from New Orleans in Nebraska, and you know, just kind of experimental funk and blues and soul kind of all mixed together, and it was just a really fun time in life, actually, with that project and the following project. It seems to me that as things get more serious, when you're more career-oriented or goal-oriented as a musician, that's when some of the fun gets lost. And so those early, you know, expressive times, even though, you know, we weren't all that great, were really fun. And so the bonds that we made and you know, just kind of learning together and having a good time with it was something I always remember. So I think the challenges come in more when you're like, hey, I really want to do this more professionally. You know, you start to see it as something where, I don't know, if there's a player in the band that's not up to to a certain standard, but they're a good friend, then you have to move on from that. And it's more of a profession, you know. That's when the hard times start to happen, I think, or more difficult decisions when you're wanting to do it for a living.
As a band, what was there like a particular event or something that happened that was like a first break for you guys?
I guess with my current project.
Yeah. I would say that we played the Zoo Fest, which is a festival at the Zoo Bar. Outside, they have a big festival every July, and we played that event in 2013, and people were just blown away. And so that really like just propelled us into something a lot bigger somehow. There was just a new energy behind us, you know. And the town was really excited about what we were doing musically. And it was a big show. Like I put together a big show with horns, and I had backup singers, and I had a fire dancer and all this stuff. I mean, it was like a production, you know, and it was super fun. We had a great time with it, but there was a whole new, oh, have you heard this? Oh man, you got to go see these guys. And so I think that energy really put us out on the road, and, you know, we had a lot That's so cool.
faith in what we were doing.
I want to talk about a few of my favorite Josh Hoyer tracks.
All right.
So Every Day and Every Night, such a great groove on that track. That's from Josh Hoyer and Soul Colossal 2014, if anybody wants to check it out. What's the backstory to that?
You bet, man. I love that groove too. And it's funny, we did the, you know, the IBCs, what those are, the International Blues.
Yeah, sure.
So we did that, the IBC in 2013 as well. I believe it was 2013. And that was one of the tunes that we played. And I love that song. And we were told that we're not blues enough, which I understand. We don't play traditional blues. But if you listen to that track, it's very much Born Under a Bad Sign, the bass line. Right. It's very much a Born Under a Bad Sign, just kind of turned around a little bit. And so it's equally parts of Albert King and then Dr. John, and I'm a big fan of both.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so just kind of blending those two feels together in a different way. You know, I'm not the type of person that wants to just emulate what everybody else has already done. I like to take what I love and mold it into something more fresh and unique. So that's what I did with that tune. You know, I don't know. I'm not really like when I sit down to write, it's usually just something that's playing in my head and I hash it out. So I'm not going, I want to write an Albert King meets Dr. John song and create that, you know, right. But it's starting to play and I'm feeling those influences. And
sure.
So that's where that came from. And I love that one, man. It's got some swing to it. And it's got some funk to it too. So,
yeah. It's interesting that, I'm a blues player and when I went through your whole catalog and I pulled out my guitar, plenty of songs to play along with it. So, you know, to me, you're a funk, soul, and blues band all together. And I don't know if you could say, well, you know, you could do that on any record of any artist. Well, this is blues. This is, you know, I mean, it's kind of funny about people so myopic about categories at times.
It is. It's stifling to creativity is what it is. And,
it is, man.
When you see I love traditionalists that respect the art form so much that they want to get it right as far as the originators go. I respect that a great deal. And one of my mentors here in Lincoln, his name's Sean Benjamin. He is passed, but he was one of those guys. And he would sit there and he would know, you know, every Muddy Waters song, just how Muddy Waters played it. I mean, each lick just like it, you know, or, I mean, and you go down T-Bone Walker, you go to, who else was he really in love with? Albert King, you know, I mean, so he could play just like these guys, but it was out of respect. He wasn't trying to be them.
Sure.
You know? Yeah. So I love that. And so he never, I don't know. It seems like some people kind of cross the boundary where they're trying to be the people that have already been, you know?
Yeah, but that doesn't make any sense.
Do that now.
No,
you know?
No.
Be yourself.
I think most musicians that are successful, ultimately, that's why they're successful, because you've been yourself, you know?
Yeah.
You have a track off the album called Do It Now. The track is called Tell Me Why. I loved that track. It's like straight up gospel, the minor key horns playing together right after the intro. The opening lyric, man, that was pretty profound. It turns out the monster was inside your head. Seemed pretty deep. What's that about?
It is about the persona that was created by Roger Stone and Donald Trump to create this political persona that a bunch of people would get excited about and uproar about and always talked about. I try not to be overtly political, so I try to keep things like, but when people ask, then I can say,
sure,
right?
Sure.
So, it's not just limited to them. I think that a lot of public personas are created intentionally to get a rise out of people or to speak to a certain demographic that you know you've done all the studies, what they want to hear. And at that point, the monster was created inside their head, but then it leapt off the page and into our homes. So we started to see that all the time on. I don't know if there was a moment there that you could turn on the television and not hear about Donald Trump before he was elected president.
Yeah.
So it worked.
Yeah, man. Sure did. In the beginning of that track, there's like, it sounds like a record playing from one of those old school turntables with like the big horn.
Yeah.
How did you get the idea for that? I thought it was really cool.
Here's the deal, man. I am a truth teller. That's just how I am. And it's like, you know, I just had a conversation with an old friend last night. She's like, why are you such an a-hole sometimes? And I'm like, I'm not being that. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
So the honest answer to that is that the studio we recorded, what we had to take back to master and mix was so horrible, sound wise, that we had to adjust how it is that we approached it. And so we made something really cool out of something that was not good.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a choir that I brought in to sing in the studio, and the sound was all muffled and strange, and it just wasn't pretty at all. So we said, well, let's just go the other direction with it.
Yeah.
So James Fleege, who was he was the mixing engineer on this record, who saved the whole project with his genius, because I wasn't happy with any of it. He turned that thing and he played it through an AM radio somehow.
Oh, wow!
Right, and then we recorded that, and so it was really cool. You know, and it turned out great. I'm like, man, it's like we intentionally did this. I love it. So
that's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
So you were able to kind of make chicken salad out of chicken shit. That doesn't happen too often. That's awesome. Very good.
Yeah, man.
Natural Born Hustler, off the record by the same name. I love that song. Super cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like a soundtrack that, you know, Curtis Mayfield wrote for a 1970s film that took place up in Harlem. You know, it's like a very cool funk track. Great work on the horn arrangements there.
Thank you.
Is from a recording standpoint, I was curious if there's something like that is there something you do to get that old 70s sound? I mean, it was freaking
that
great.
record was recorded at Color Red Studios in Denver with Eddie Roberts, who is the guitarist and band leader of the new Master Sounds.
Yeah, I know that.
And also the owner of Color Red, and they're coming out with a lot of fantastic music. So we recorded that in the basement, direct to tape. And so that's, you know, I mean, we just had a very small, intimate, simple studio, and everything went direct to tape. So that saturation and that, it's like a mix of warmth and crispiness at the same time. You know, you just can't match. So that's where that sound comes from, and that's their thing. That's what he
sounded great.
You know?
Yeah, you know what? New Master Sounds, they have a lot of recordings like that. That's very true.
Yeah.
You've always had a larger band with horns and backup singers. And, you know, from an arrangement, well, from every standpoint, but specifically from an arrangement standpoint, that is a lot of work. How did you, like, what was, and it's a big commitment to have all these people involved, you know, financially, emotionally, management times, arranging times. What was the deciding factor for you that said, hey, this is the band I need to put together? And how did you build your arrangement skills so well?
Yeah. Okay. I'll start with the number of people. We did start out as a 10-piece. So with the horn section, backup singers, and Latin percussion with the rest of the band, those were kind of the added pieces. And then I realized pretty quickly, it was only maybe a year and a half that that was not going to be viable. So we kind of whittled it down to a 6-piece. And then we went with just one horn for a while. But, you know, I've been blessed with such great players and good people. We're going to have a 10-year anniversary show in December where we're going to have everyone, hopefully most people that have played in the band. It's at like 23 people, I think, right now. Wow. Over the last 10 years. So we've had some people come and go, you know, only one or two. It's been like, you know, don't want to talk to you again kind of situation, but everybody else is cool, man. And we have a good kind of family relationship. So been very blessed that way.
That's great.
Have the people that will listen to the ideas that I have, orchestrations that I have, and respect, you know, my vision. Because, you know, I would say every one of the players I've had is way better than me, and more skilled than me. And so I'm very thankful that I've had such good people go, you know, I believe in your vision, and I want to be a part of this and help you create it. And so that was really great. I love orchestrating. I'm a songwriter. That's at heart. That's what songwriter and a singer. And so I feel like if you're patient as a songwriter, that the parts will unveil themselves. You know, if you rush through a tune, you can tell that things aren't placed in the right place. You know, and there's a natural order to things, like you know, a natural path to water. It's going to flow the way it wants to flow, and you have to just be patient with it. So I love that part of orchestrating music. There's a magic there where you kind of allow it to speak to you more than you creating it. So I love that.
And you're super prolific, man. I mean, you're primary or sole or primary songwriter. And I mean, you've 9, almost 10 records now. I mean, that's a lot of music you've cranked out, man.
Yeah. I kind of just became aware that that was my best way of living. Like, a lot of folks are really good at a number of things that I am not good at. But this is my way of kind of feeling like I have value in life, like I can add something to the greater community of people around me. So I look at it as a service, and I really am thankful that I have a way to contribute. So I love to write. I go through periods where I don't at all, but then other periods where that's all I want to do. So
I like that attitude that you have, because I think if you have that service mentality about it, it's easier it's less stress.
Right. Yeah, it's not about you or your ego. It's not about any of that. It's about serving something bigger than yourself. So
yeah.
I don't know. There's a magic to music. You always got to ask yourself why you started in the first place. What was that moment that you remember when you were young that you were just like, oh, what is this?
What was that for you? What was that moment for you?
There was a band when I was like 8 years old in the mountains, a little town called Grand Lake, Colorado. And they had a saxophone player, and I was just mesmerized to see that live music. There was people smoking and glasses clanking, and just the energy in this room, and the saxophone. I was just like, man, I don't know. I remember that moment pretty clearly. Then you're just turned on to all kinds of experiences and things. But that was kind of one of the first times that I was like, there's some magic in this thing. What's this all about?
And how old were you at that time in Grand Lake, Colorado?
I think around 8. I was pretty young.
8 years old?
Yeah. And so I had already performed once when I was 6. My parents put me in a talent show. Apparently I was always singing and dancing at the house. So they put me in a talent show at my dad's high school that he taught at. And I sang in front of the high school kids. And I don't know. It's fun. Always has been fun.
Were your parents supportive? Because usually they were. Academics, I've noticed, because like literally the number one, and I've had almost 900 interviews now, but the number one common thing that musicians have is they have parental support. That being said, when the parent is in education, that is not common.
Oh, okay.
Educators tend to be like, no, you need to pursue higher education. You need, they're not really into the supporting them for that.
There was a time there where it was kind of like that. And it's not coming from a place of diminuting or not valuing music or the arts. From my father in particular. He's a great supporter of the community and a great teacher, but I think he just saw me as directionless. Yeah, and he didn't understand that this thing that I was doing, music, which he saw as a side thing to do while I'm being directionless. I think he finally understood that. That's what he is.
That's his direction.
When he got to see, we had a performance in Lincoln, because I was gone for a while, playing music, and I think he associated that with being lost. But when he saw us perform live, when I returned and had put together a band, and he understood it. And now he's my biggest fan. So
that's awesome.
Knows all the lyrics, and him and my mother are at all the shows, and I love to watch them dance to my music. It makes me tear up. Like, oh God, yeah, I love it. So
that's cool, man.
We reconnected.
Awesome. Hey, tell me your top 3 musical experiences, Josh, and what made them so much fun or so memorable.
I just looked through the questions. I'm like, man, I should have done this earlier and wrote some stuff down. Okay. Number one at the top of the list would have to be, it was our first gig in Spain.
Wow.
And, a little town, God darn it, if I can't remember it. Shoot. I'm having a hard time remembering the name of the town. I'm sorry.
No worries. What was so cool about it?
Well, the way that they treated us first, Jaime is the name of the guy who owned the place and the manager. He speaks in this gruff, like, it's so good to have American musicians. I mean, it's just like a I don't know, like a pirate from Spain that owns a bar, and he's super cool and smokes nonstop. And he invited us into his place and took good care of us, took us over to have like this fresh seafood meal. It was in northern Spain, in Galicia, that area. And it's just this beautiful city. And, we had fresh, fish out of the ocean. It was my first time I had octopus, and it was just mind-blowingly good. And so this whole experience led up to the performance, and I'm like, I'm already in heaven. But these people didn't know who we were. We're not a big name or anything.
Sure.
But we get back to the club to play, and it is arm to arm people, like ready for a night.
Yeah, and that's so cool.
When we started playing, I mean, just the energy in the room was something completely palpable. I mean, it was pure magic, man. Everybody just together, pulsing and joyful and dancing and shouting. When we got done with the show, what they do in Spain when they love it, they do like a soccer chant.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole place was just shouting this at the top of their lungs, man. It was so
that's
fun.
So cool.
And so we played another song, and then they did it again, and we played another song. That to me, it's all about exchanging energy with people. That's what really raising people up and having a moment with a crowd. So that's tops. Being able to, I don't know, I've had the great fortune of being able to open for some great artists too. I don't know. That's always cool. You don't ever know if they're listening though or not, because most of the time.
Who are you thinking about? Which artists are you thinking about?
We got to open for Irma Thomas. We've got to open for Booker T. Jones. We got to open for George Clinton, P-Funk. And sometimes it's the ability to step in front of that larger crowd that's anticipating the headliner and really turning them on their head as an opener and going, whoa, okay. That's exciting to me.
Because they're not expecting that, and it's almost irrelevant sometimes.
Right.
But when you can turn them on, yeah.
Yeah, you're meant to be filler, and so when you're actually able to grab them and say, "Hey, we have something to offer you too," when they've spent good money to see someone else, there's a lot of magic there too, and just it's fun. I don't know, man. Anytime I get to play the Zoo Bar in Lincoln, there was many Christmas nights that I got to play with Magic Slim.
Wow.
Okay, so you're a blues guy, Magic.
Yes.
He lived here for 20 plus years, and he's one of my mentors. And so he'd do a Christmas show every Christmas at the Zoo Bar. And the last 4 or 5 years, he had asked me to play keys with him. And
that's so cool.
Pure joy.
Oh, yeah. God. That's nice, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What were some of the low points or dark periods that you've had to deal with in life, Josh, and how'd you get through them?
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't want to go too far into things. I like to keep a lot of my things to myself. But I deal with depression. I deal with anxiety and that kind of thing. Sometimes the depression is just debilitating. As a performer, you still have to get out and play. And if it get hit with a bout of depression on the road, there's really nothing that you can do. You just have to continue to kind of like find someplace deep down where you can still perform. So that I would say, those are kind of the tougher things that I've dealt with. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
No problem.
That's hard on the road. I never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. You still have to perform and give energy to people when you feel like you don't have any. It can be a real mind game. So to try to dig deep and find that place.
Yeah.
There's always something there.
A friend of mine many years ago still suffers from depression. He was saying he can't even get out of bed some days. And I'm like, God, that's what your state of mind is. And then you got to go perform and make other people happy. That's a big challenge, man. Yeah.
It's weird, man. I think a lot of artists, have to, you have to have the self-care, on the road and be able to like, be aware of your needs and your limitations and not push yourself to a certain place where, you don't have anything to offer. Cause I've been in situations like that where cause we do work hard. I've been in the van 45,000 miles this year, 28 and a half days of driving, like full days of just sitting behind the wheel. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? But, you reach these moments where you've put everything out. As a soul artist, that's something too, that all your energy every night after night after night. And if you're not getting good rest, if you drink or if you take drugs or whatever, and you're wearing yourself down to this place where there's nothing left at the bottom, you're going to fall apart. Yeah. And so I think a lot of artists really need to be health conscious and time conscious and say sometimes no to gigs where, maybe it's not going to be something financial for you or benefit your career. Don't say yes to every dang gig that you can. I've done that in the past and it wears you down, man, to the point where you're making bad decisions and not being a gentleman, just kind of edgy and that kind of thing. And that's not what an artist is supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to give when you get to these places. So that was a hard lesson to kind of learn, how to keep your boundaries and keep your health and, do things so that your spirit can be right on the stage night after night. And not feel guilty about it, because there's nothing to feel guilty about. Right. No, it's just a learning process. Yeah. I think for a lot of like hungrier artists that are out there that are, under the radar for a lot of, people it's tough. And it's harder than ever these days. There's so many bands and so many outlets for music. And it's just really tough that a lot of artists can really wear themselves down. Yeah. And it's unhealthy. So. Well, thank you again, man. Yeah. You mentioned work. Your work ethic is obviously a critical part of who you are and what you've accomplished. Cause I love your work ethic, man. Where do you think, oh yeah, you can't, I went through your whole catalog, I did some research and like this, it's a tough thing what you're doing, man. And you're doing it. Yeah. And, and you're 200 days on the road, dude. And like, you're not 19 years old. So nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying it takes more discipline to do that. When you're not 19, you got 2 kids, but where do you think that work ethic came from? And why does that resonate so well with you? It came from my family. My dad, he was a teacher and a coach. He coached cross country, he coached girls basketball, track, was on the debate team. I think he helped with student council. He just had a lot on his plate. And so he'd come home from work pretty late and then he'd work at home and then he'd get up at 4:30, 5, go back to work. It's just what I grew up seeing. And my mother too, she's a extremely hard worker. Her mother, my grandmother on her side, I was really close with her and she was just tough as nails and worked hard and she had a lot of laughs too. But, we're lower middle class people and nothing's handed to you. And if you want something, you have to go out and get it. Sure. That's just the way I was raised. So, there's nothing more frustrating than meeting people that feel like the world should be handed to them. And I think that mentality is it's destructive, So it's annoying and destructive. Yeah, so I don't know, man. That's how I raised my kids too. So yeah, I'm thankful for those lessons growing up, and I wanted to do things that when you mix that work mentality with I don't like to listen to other people and do what they tell me, because I'm also that guy.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I don't believe in the structure of this work situation that I'm in, or I don't want to just go out there and bust my hump for somebody to make way more money than I will.
Sure.
So I'm not into following orders either. So, I think a lot of artists are that way. They don't realize that if you don't have the work ethic side of things, then nothing's going to happen.
Yeah,
but
that's for sure.
A way to kind of navigate the world and create your own reality, your own opportunities. You create them yourself. And there's Absolutely. A way to be true to who you are and what you truly want to do in life, but you got to put in the time, man.
Totally.
If you don't put in the time and the effort, then it's nothing.
I agree. Thank you, man. Which, do you have a worst gig ever story, Josh?
Yeah. We played this gig in Florida. There's been a lot of shitty gigs, just to be honest.
Yeah.
Where, places where they don't really even usually do music, or if they do, they don't really have a sound guy. You have to bring in your own stuff and set up in the corner, and you get ignored for 4 hours, or there's a game on and everybody's watching TV, or, more often than not, if you're out here and you're trying to build this thing from the bottom up and nobody's just anointed you as a star.
Yeah.
70% of your gigs are going to suck. So just get used to it now.
Yeah.
But there's always someone in the crowd that you can relate to, so you still play with a full heart, but it's a challenge. I mean, it's a challenge. So you take the people that are listening and you play to them and relate to them. But there was one gig that I played in Florida. There was one guy in the crowd, and he was drunk and passed out, like out in front of the mains, like right in front of the speaker. He was just passed out on a chair, and we still had to play a 4-hour show.
Oh my God. The
bartender and this guy, and nobody else ever came in.
Oh my God. Where in Florida was this?
I want to say Panama City. It was up on the,
up in the Panhandle there.
Yeah, the Panhandle area. Yep.
Wow. So, you played to 2 people. You know what, though? That happened.
Started laughing about it. Like I was singing songs about waking the guy up. I was like singing songs about what he might be dreaming about, So we were just cracking up on stage.
That's awesome, man.
We had as much fun with it as we could.
You're right. That happens with, I had Charlie Starr on here from Blackberry Smoke.
Okay.
And he was telling me they had a gig out in like something just like that, like in Idaho or someplace like that. He said there was the bartender was the only person in there. They had to play a gig for that. They had played the gig, set up, and then they left.
Yeah.
I mean, so that happens to everybody. Yeah. Yep. That's funny, man. Hey, musically, tell me your top 3 Desert Island discs in just for this moment, in no particular order.
You bet. Well, I mean, the first 2 are easy for me. The albums that I just love, that are, if I never could hear anything else again, Love Supreme by John Coltrane, Caravanserai by Santana. Yeah. I don't know if you've heard that. It's both of them. Yeah. Yeah. Pure magic, man. And then I would say I love a band called Morphine, and their last album, The Night, is something that's very, very dear to me.
Morphine. What kind of music is that? I have to check them out.
Morphine is one of the coolest bands that you'll ever hear. It's a 2-string slide bass guitar.
Wait a minute.
That he created himself. 2-string slide bass.
Okay.
Super sexy. And then baritone sax and drums.
Wow, that's a combination. What's the record called?
The Night. And so they add some more instrumentation to this one as they moved forward in their career, started adding some more colors to their orchestration. So there's some piano and some strings and a little guitar here and there, but it's great music, man.
How'd you get turned on to them?
A guy in college played their first record, or the first one I ever heard is called Yes. And I was just blown away because I played baritone sax.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just like, whoa, what is this? I love those moments where you get turned on to something you're just like, man.
That's cool.
it's been a while since that's happened to me, where I've been that excited about something.
That's
something
nice,
new.
man. All righty. Tell me about a change you've made or a specific experience you had that changed either your outlook on life or changed your outlook on yourself.
Having children. Yeah. My first daughter, when she was born, man, everything changed. Like, I had prepared up till that point, kind of, but you have no idea what that is until you're a daddy, you know? So yeah, everything changed, man. My kids are everything to me.
Very cool. Tough question. What do you like most about yourself?
My honesty. Yeah. I guess that's how my mother's father was as well. I never got to meet either of my grandfathers, but you know, that's something that my mom always talked about, was him being really straight with people. So no matter if they were a friend or a foe, the friend would know and the foe would know too. And you just tell them like it is. And
yeah,
I think that you can get through life without wasting a lot of time that way.
Oh, hell yeah. I agree with you, man.
Straight with people. So
don't piss on my back and tell me it's raining, right?
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Happiest moment or happiest time in your life?
When my kids were born.
Yeah. Nice, man.
Yeah. And my wife and I, I'm just all about family. I just love my family so much. And I know, that's not uncommon, but being a musician and being away that's the toughest thing.
Yeah.
So like, the people that you love the most, like a lot of the songs I write are about my family, and, and then I talk about them when I'm on the road, and it's so weird. I'm like, why don't I just be home? But it's a cool way to relate to people musically.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of compliments about that, but people will come up and say, I just appreciate your realness, and you talking about your family, and, how you work hard and how you're there for them. That kind of connection is real and palpable. It's nice to talk to people that way. We played a show up in Durand, Wisconsin this summer, a festival, and this guy came up to me. He's like, oh, there was all this excitement that you were coming to town because you were on TV and, The Voice or whatever. So we thought, this is going to be a good show. But the guy's probably a jerk because he's a big star or whatever. And I'm like, well, first off, that's wrong. I'm not. Second off, no, man, I'm just a real person. And he's like, I loved your show because you talked about your wife, you talked about your kids, you talked about, real stuff that I'm dealing with, and you made me feel not alone.
Oh, that's so cool, man.
That's what it's about.
Yeah, man. That is awesome.
Yeah.
You have any hobbies or interests outside of music?
I became a pretty good gardener during the COVID slowdown. So I like to cook, and I do enjoy gardening and that kind of thing. I do some house projects, the honeydew list, and I claim to not like it. Well, my wife knows I secretively do, so she gives me a good long list to get through. But, more than anything, I just love to spend time with my family and, get in the kitchen with them and make some good meals and just have some fun.
What's your favorite place you've traveled to?
Spain by far.
Oh, you like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that several times.
Yeah. It's a magical place, man. The coffee is incredible. The wine is incredible. The people are full of love and spirit and just want to have a great time. And the cool thing, like when you play a show there too, you'll have a meal with the promoter,
right?
And all the bartenders and the sound guy and then their buddies. And so you'll have a table of like 20 people and you all break bread together before the performance.
Cool. They're not doing that in Cleveland.
And yeah, it's so cool. It's so community oriented, everything's like, hey, let's get together and share, it's sweet. So I don't know, man.
That is cool, man.
I try to bring some of that home. And I don't know what the future holds because I'm tired of being on the road. So I may end up being like a club owner or I'm already booking again at the Zoo Bar, but I may do that. We'll see. I don't know. But if I do that, I'm going to have a big table upstairs.
That would be really, you're going to bring a little bit of Spain to Lincoln.
That's right.
That's very cool, man.
Because it feels good. It feels right.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Last question, and thank you very much for all your time. And what biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years? And was that change something that was intentional, or was it a natural part of aging?
I think just becoming more first thankful. And I think when we started finding success as a band, I got real hungry for success. And I got real focused in on achieving more. I don't know. I mean, I'm not after fame because I don't want that. I'm not interested in that, but I just want to play the bigger, I wanted to play the bigger stages. I wanted to have our name up in lights, under the other big names that I love. Sure. So I was really hungry for that. And I think I kind of lost my way for a while, as far as what things were about. And then just kind of, as those dreams get crushed down into nothing year after year, you realize that there's still a heck of a lot out there. The things that I've been able to do, the places I've been able to see, the people I've been able to meet, lives that I've been able to touch through music, have really, you have those realizations like, man, this has been really wonderful, even though it's not the thing you dreamed of, going on tour later in life. Like I was 35 when we started touring. Most kids started at 20. So they're just like, whatever. I was like, I need to get successful, and I need to get successful quick to make this work.
You feel like you're behind the 8 ball all the time. Right. Yeah. And
so finally realizing, all the things to be thankful for has been really good for my spirit. And then just becoming more service oriented, as I get older, I realize that's where joy comes from, is from giving to others and figuring out your place in the world to give more than you take, so that's kind of where I'm at.
Thanks. It sounds like you're a lot more in the present, ultimately, is what you're saying.
Yeah, man. Not as disappointed that things aren't the way that I want them to be. Just find myself where I am and be okay with it. So
awesome.
Yeah, man.
Any final words of wisdom?
I don't know. I mean, if I'm talking to other musicians out there, just be honest with yourself, be real with yourself, be realistic with your goals, and know that it's going to take a lot of hard work to get where you want to be. And don't forget all the good stuff in between. And the listeners, just thanks for listening to, original artists, because there's a lot of people that have a lot of experiences that they want to share. And that's what it's all about.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Let me tell people where to find you. Are you touring anytime soon?
We've got just a trip this weekend, and then we're head up to Chicago and Madison first week in November. And after that, we're just kind of local, and I don't know what the future holds. I have no idea. We've I've set a boundary for myself. I'm no longer going to go play bars for $200 or $300 or whatever it is that people can afford. And I understand it's hard to survive as a venue or a bar or whatever, but I've drawn a boundary. So if people want to have us, we need to meet a certain expectation financially and travel wise. If not, I'm going to stay home with my family.
Good for you, man.
Do what's right for my spirit.
That's awesome. I'm happy for you, man.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, please check out Josh Hoyer. Website is joshhoyer.com, Hoyer. The new record, Green Light, you can buy it, that album, as well as all his other records on CD and vinyl over at his website. Green Light comes out October 21st. You can also find him on Facebook. Also, for anybody passing through Lincoln, Josh books gigs at the Zoom Bar. And sounds like you have a good relationship with that place. So if you want to get involved with that, reach out to him through his website or through Facebook. I like what you said in closing, be real with yourself. That's important. Thank you, man. I appreciate everything. Hang on one second. We'll wrap up. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks very much to Josh Hoyer. If you're not familiar with Josh and Soul Colossal, please listen to the band. This guy's voice is pretty happening, man. I can't say it any better than that. He'll make you feel good. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, enjoy yourself, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love, everybody. I am out. Josh, thank you, brother.
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah. I appreciate it, Craig. I like your message at the end. That's cool.
Thank you, bro.